Scream 3. My apologies. You are no longer the worst Scream movie. Take a pat on the back, take a victory lap. We all treated you too harshly. You are the personification of that Thanos meme. Congratulations. You finally did it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a new release I'm talking about, and that is going to be Scream 7. As the number indicates, it is the 7th installment in the wildly consistent Scream series. There's not a bad entry in the series, even Scream 3, even though I just kind of roasted Scream 3 to a T. Don't think Scream 3 was ever, like, horrendous or anything. It was definitely the worst of the bunch, but it was nothing that was offensive or anything. So now let's talk some Scream 7, and after being absent from the 6th one, we have Neve Campbell back as Sidney Prescott. Sidney Prescott is back in Scream 7, and you can talk all day and night if you want about the controversy surrounding Scream 7, the firing of Melissa Barrera, the exit of Jenna Ortega, the exit of original director Christopher Landon. I am not going to talk about all that here. I understand the boycotts for the movie. I would probably be right on your side, but I just tend to leave all of that at the door. That is a completely different subject for a whole nother video. We can talk about that all day. Let's talk about the actual movie, the Scream 7, the retooled Scream 7 that they had to creatively retool after Melissa Barrera was fired and after Kevin Williamson came on board and Neve Campbell came back as Sidney Prescott, because now we get this version of Scream 7 in which Sidney Prescott now lives in a small town in Indiana, and she is being hunted once again and taunted by Ghostface, who is coming after her daughter and using every means necessary to lure Sidney out to try and kill Sidney Prescott. Again, that is your basic premise of Scream 7. Listen, I've seen way worse than what critics are making Scream 7 out to be. But Scream 7, yeah, it's, as of right now, the worst of the franchise. Again, you are innocent, Scream 3. Take that victory lap and pat on the back. This movie just feels like a whole byproduct of that whole Melissa Barrera situation. And it's so evident that they had no clue what to do with Scream 7 after Spyglass unfairly fired Melissa Barrera. So instead of me just bitching about the whole movie, because there are quite a bit of negatives with this movie and it's going to take up a good chunk of the video, let me tell you what I actually did like about Scream 7. There were a few great kills in here. There's one in a bar. That's probably one of my favorites of the movie. One of my favorites of the series, probably. Ghostface just takes this teenager, sees that there's this beer tap that has a sharp end to it, stabs his head on it, and then the kid throws up as he's dying, and then a stream of blood comes out of his mouth. One of the best kills I've seen in this series. There's also another great one in a school auditorium with somebody dangling from ropes. That's a great kill as well. That's the thing. Scream 7 actually has some good kills. He stabs someone, then sets them on fire while setting an entire house on fire. Ghostface is still brutal in this movie, and I like that he still brought the brutality, even though Neve Campbell was like, yeah, no, the last couple, too much gore. Let's tone it back a little bit. There were a couple of decent-ish set pieces here. The bar one, I liked. The school auditorium set piece, I liked. The one in the trailer where Sidney and her daughter are in between the walls of her house, that one was actually decent-ish. There's one set in a coffee shop at the end that I thought was probably the standout one. But compare these to the other set pieces in the other Scream movies. They feel kind of weak, but in the moment, you can enjoy it. In the moment, you can see that they are trying to get a little bit creative and set the mood and the tension in those scenes. And I appreciated it for that, even though it's very few and far between with the tension. The first 30 minutes or so, I don't want to say they were great. They were decent. And it was enough to get me on board where I was like, okay, you have my curiosity. I'm intrigued. What are you actually going to do? There's this element so far that I'm not 100% sure that I'm on board with, but if you could sell me on it, I can get on board. It doesn't sell me on it, but it at least had me. You got the hook in me to want to watch this movie. I can do that. And yes, Neve Campbell is back as Sidney Prescott. It is nice to see Nev Campbell back as Sidney Prescott. This is where my negatives really come in with the movie, because do we really need Sidney Prescott in Scream at this point? Because Sidney Prescott, she was absent in the sixth one. We don't really need her at this point. Is it nice to see Nev Campbell back as Sidney Prescott? Yes. Is it nice to know that Nev Campbell got paid what she deserved to come back to Scream? Absolutely. Do we need Sidney Prescott at this point in the series? Absolutely not. Or if you are going to have Sidney Prescott, don't make her the main character. Do what you did in Scream 5. Have her be like I guess you could say a glorified cameo, but a minor supporting character. That's how Scream 5 was set up. Those characters in Scream 5. That's what Scream 5 was to me, a legacy sequel with Sidney Prescott passing the torch to a new generation. And Scream 6 proved that you can still do a Scream movie that doesn't involve Sidney Prescott. So it just feels like a giant retread when you see Sidney Prescott in this movie taking on Ghostface. How many people want to kill Sidney Prescott? That's my biggest question after this movie. How many times is Sidney Prescott gonna fight Ghostface? How many people have that many grudges against her? It gets old after a while. That's why I think fresh new faces like Tara and Sam in 5 and 6 could have carried the franchise forward, and they try to do something similar with Sydney's daughter in this, Tatum, played by Isabel May. Wow. I have never seen Isabel May in anything before, but holy shit. That was one of the worst performances I have ever seen. She cannot emote after she delivers her lines. She delivers her lines very awkwardly. She like turns and looks away from people when she's talking to them. I was flabbergasted throughout the whole movie. I poked my friend next to me. I was like, dude, this movie would be so much better if they cast a better actress as Tatum. Isabel May is horrible in this movie. He's like, yeah, I gotta agree with you. The problem here, though, is that it's really just Tatum. You would think that she would have this group of friends, because think about it. Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4. It's Sydney, Gail, and Dewey. And then in the first two, you also have Randy. Scream 5 and 6, it's Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad. That's the group of friends in each one of those. In here, it's just Tatum. And then all of her friends are expendable meat suits for Ghostface to kill. McKenna Grace is in this movie as one of Tatum's friends. How do you not have McKenna Grace in the entirety of this movie? The unsung scream queen of this generation, whose biggest contribution to this movie is that song Twisting the Knife that she did with Ice Nine Kills. How is she only in literally like 2 minutes of the movie? It makes no sense to me. All the friends are just expendable meat suits. There is nothing to flesh out the friends in this movie. There's nothing to flesh out Tatum in this movie. All this movie is just nostalgia bait. And that's essentially what the movie thinks it's trying to poke fun at. But you see, the beauty of Scream is that Scream was a slasher movie mixed with the whodunit murder mystery genre to poke fun at horror movie cliches. Scream 1, poking fun at horror movie cliches. Scream 2, poking fun at horror movie sequel cliches. Scream 3, poking fun at horror movie trilogy cliches, although it started to become exactly what it was poking fun at with that one. But it was still Wes Craven, so he could actually kind of get around that a little bit and still make it not feel like that, but you get my point. Scream 4, poking fun at franchises and remakes. Scream 5, poking fun at legacy sequels. Scream 6, poking fun at sequels to legacy sequels. Scream 7 attempts to poke fun at nostalgia, but instead, Scream 7 just comes off as a parody of itself. It starts poking fun at itself. It's so self-referential where it becomes eye-rolling and borderline hilarious. Speaking of hilarious, yeah, worst Ghostface, worst killer reveal, worst motive. Holy shit. I feel like the motive especially, I started laughing. I was like, this is literally a comedy. Fans of Scream will say Scream 3 is a comedy because it's more comedic and they had to tone down the violence because of Columbine. This legitimately takes the cake for funniest unintentional funny moment in any Scream movie. The motive for this Ghostface killer is so dumb. It is literally the worst thing they could have done. There's also use of AI in this movie, and I feel like The movie is trying to comment on the use of AI without actually commenting on the use of AI to the point where it is borderline pro AI. I mean, they were marketing this movie with AI stuff. I don't know what they were thinking. Another weird aspect of this movie is that the producers seem like they went online and read fan theories about certain people in this, and they were like, okay, let's make that a plot point of a Scream movie. And it was borderline hilarious. It reminded me of when they made Fast and Furious 9. And it was very clear that they were listening to what fans were joking about online. When fans of Fast and Furious were saying, hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be funny if in one of these movies down the road they just acknowledge that the characters are invincible and then they go to space, and then in Fast and Furious 9 there's many jokes about them being invincible and they go to space? That's the same situation here. They literally went online, found fan theories, and wrote them as plot points. I can't believe that's coming out of my mouth for a Scream movie. Kevin Williamson hasn't stepped into the director's chair for the Scream movies yet. I don't think he's directed a movie since the 90s. He has trouble moving characters in and out of the scenes and out of frame. He has trouble staging all the tension. He doesn't really know that you shouldn't be able to see Ghostface in the background in a lot of these scenes. Like, there will be something that's so dark in the back. It will just be Joel McHale standing in his renovated garage with plastic wrap, and then Ghostface will be like, and then it'll fade out with Ghostface. And I'm like, that's not how Ghostface works. That's never how Scream works. So you know that Ghostface is there. You know he could pop up at any point in the movie. And I just felt like that kind of went against Scream because I feel like in the original Scream, you really didn't know when Ghostface was going to pop up. And as I said, it was poking fun at horror movie cliches. What does Sidney Prescott say in the original Scream? Why is there always like a big breasted woman running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door, and then Ghostface attacks her? She tries to get out the front door, but she can't unlock it in time, or it's locked or something, so she's forced to run up the stairs. That's what you should be poking fun at. You shouldn't be doing the whole, oh, jump scare, oh, something in the background, jump scare. That's not what Scream is, and that's really a big detriment to this movie. And speaking of all these dark backgrounds and all that. Was this movie poorly lit to anybody? Was it just me? Was it hard on the eyes? Every scene I feel like takes place at night, and every scene just feels desaturated. I have no idea what it was. What was the color warmth on that camera? What happened? I feel like I could barely see a thing in this movie. Scream 7 just also doesn't do enough to really differentiate itself from the other Scream movies. There could have been some fresh takes here. There needed to be a little bit of a change up if you brought Sidney Prescott back. Instead, it just feels like every other Scream movie starring Sidney Prescott. There's not enough variety here. Even the set pieces, there's so many references to all the other Scream movies. I mean, you have Sydney's daughter named Tatum. Tatum Riley was in the original Scream movie. There's many scenes that replicate Scream 1. There's scenes that replicate Scream 2. It feels like they're just trying to do a giant remake of all the greatest hits of the series. Weirdly, and mean-spiritedly take jabs at Scream 6 for some reason. For instance, one character says, oh, Sydney, you weren't at the New York killings. Because you weren't there, it doesn't count. So is that them telling us that Scream 6 is no longer canon? I obviously know what that means. That was executives having them put those lines in the movie as a jab at a certain somebody to be like, yeah, that's why this certain somebody isn't in the movie, and that's why she's never coming back ever again. I just thought it was so mean-spirited. There's about like 4 or 5 of those jabs at Scream 6. I'm like, what the hell's the problem with Scream 6? It's canon. You got Gale Weathers in here, who has a great entrance, by the way. But yeah, I didn't like those jabs, and it just felt so generic, basic, run of the mill. They should have done something different. There are so many scenes of unintentional comedy in this movie. I just couldn't believe my eyes. When it comes down to it, Scream 7 is easily the worst of the series. I have seen worse movies, but I have never seen a worse Scream movie, and up to this point, I haven't really seen a bad Scream movie. Scream 7 is bad. At least in terms of the Scream movies, like, it's like shockingly bad. But in terms of like other horror movies, I mean, there's way worse out there. The problem is that Scream 7 has become the very thing Scream is poking fun at. I think you will enjoy Scream 7 with stale popcorn. I hate that I feel this way about Scream 7, but man, there's just so much about it that just didn't work. It's got some great kills. Some of the set pieces are fun. It had me slightly intrigued, but in the end, the whole finished product is just a generic, basic, run of the mill mess that didn't really know what it wanted to be after it had to retool. So let me know what you guys think of Scream 7. I may do a spoiler review because I want to talk about the Ghostface killer, the really terrible motive, and the reveal of the Ghostface. So I kind of want to do that. I might, I may not. We'll see. But if you have seen Scream 7, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.
Can you honestly promise me I won't be left here to die? I'm screaming.